Kayla Pollack was one of millions coerced and deceived into getting the deadly COVID shots when they were mandated in 2021.
Could you tell us why you decided to get the COVID-19 vaccine?
Basically, a lot of it had to do with the things I was hearing on TV. So there was a lot of fear just being screamed at me by not just the TV, but also when you hear the WHO is on TV telling you that this is like a deadly pandemic and, people with immune disorders are gonna, die from COVID-19 more likely than other people. I was hearing about that, and my dad was dying in long-term care at the time. In order to go see him, I needed the shots. In order to go to work, I needed the shots.
A week after receiving the Moderna booster shot, she fell to the floor and was paralyzed for 30 minutes. Another episode happened a week later, and shortly after that, she became paralyzed from the neck down. The first doctor told her that this was something that often happens to people when they're upset, and that it was all in her head.
He told me that this was something that often happens to people when they're upset, and that this was in my head. And the good news was that I would get better because I was essentially having an episode that was some sort of psychotic episode. I asked him when I would get better, and he said, it's up to you, really.
A second doctor was honest with her, but had to keep it hidden.
The second diagnosis, a doctor came to me and he whispered in my ear and he said, I think there's something seriously wrong with you. I do not think you're faking. He said, I have a neurologist or a radiologist who's willing to read your report at home. If you go into the scanner right now, I can get that done.
They found a massive lesion on her spine, and the doctor told her it was most likely caused by the vaccine, and that he's seen many cases just like it.
Most likely it's going to be probably, if I'm using my gut impression here, from the vaccine.
So other people have had it?
Many people have had it. Many.
Kayla spent several months in the hospital's rehabilitation center, where the staff offered her medical-assisted suicide on 2 occasions, which is the only assistance the medical system seems to offer.
Rehab didn't do a whole lot. When I was sent home from rehab, I was told that I'd be getting a lot of personal support hours, and I got home from rehab, and for 4 days straight, nobody came.
If this story is disturbing to you, then it means you still have a heart, and your human soul has managed to survive these dark days. The trauma has been too much for many, who have disassociated into cold indifference and fail to fully recognize the crimes that are being committed against all of humanity. Celia Farber wrote that what has happened and is happening is by far the worst crime ever committed, worse than the atomic bombs and all wars combined. We all struggle to fight off the feeling that in some way we have already died, and the daily challenge is not to disassociate, but to bear witness, since every person still alive now is either a victim of the shots or a witness. And we should be prepared for these criminals to try this again. The mainstream media is now talking about strange cases of the measles.
The highly infectious measles virus is spreading across more of the country, including in Florida, where a concerning outbreak is growing. And the latest CDC data shows more than 30 cases nationwide this year across more than a dozen states.
Is there something about this year that is making people more vulnerable to the measles right now?
Yeah, it's a combination of people not getting their vaccines on schedule during the pandemic and then just not necessarily getting to the doctor's office.
If you are looking for ways to help, Veterans for Freedom have launched a Give, Send, Go for Kayla to raise funds for a service dog. Greg Reese reporting.